Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast Pods and Shaw. Today we're here with Owen Smith and Daniel Wallace. How are you guys?
Doing good, doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you.
Cool. In today's podcast, we'll be reviewing Winter's Bone by Debra Granik. So, what's your guys' first thoughts on the movie itself?
I really liked it. I thought for an independent film, it was really well made. I quite like the pacing of it as well. I thought it was really well paced, and yeah, just generally pretty good.
What would you say your favorite scene is in Winter's Bone?
I really like the opening scene because it just establishes kind of like her world and kind of like in the rough conditions they're living in. So I thought, yeah, that was good.
Is there anything specific around the first scene that you liked? Like the different type of angles they did, something that
Yeah, I really like the cinematography because I also kind of the color schemes because it was kind of like dominantly like blue color schemes. So I thought that kind of like represents like the coldness or whatever. So I thought generally really good.
And it did show how dull the scene is. What about you, Owen? What's your first?
Well, I have to say, like, I don't even want to say anything that Dave already said, but like, I really enjoyed it. I feel like, without spoiling anything, they told the story in a really unique way, and it had a really good effect in the end. Yeah,
same with
I really enjoyed it.
Daniel. What would your favorite scene be?
I liked the sort of sequence of her just going house to house trying to find her dad. I like some really good filming techniques were used there, and really good use of sound, music, cinematography. Like it was really good altogether. I really enjoyed it.
And favorite character?
Owen, you go.
Probably the lead, Jennifer Lawrence's what's her name? Jennifer Lawrence's character, whatever her name is.
Ree.
Yeah.
I really liked the dad, played by John Hawkes. Oh no, not the dad. Sorry, Teardrop.
I was gonna say that dies, but okay.
Yeah, but I really like the character of Teardrop just because of kind of like how rough and just I thought it was very well acted. Finley, what about you? What was your opinions of it?
Yeah, I thought it was really good for an independent film. With the first sequence opening up, letting us know that we're going to be going into like Americans hillbillies like area, like what they do and what the scenery is like, how it's all like cold and sort of dull. It's dark colors. There's not many like colorful colors in it, and it's like, but that's how they live in a way. So it was quite good opening the scene to that, and then letting us the audience see what we're going to be watching and see how it turns out.
Do you have a favorite scene based off that, or
it's quite hard, but I would probably say when Ray, played by Jennifer Lawrence, finds her dad. I feel like that was really I can't think of the right word other than intense, but like it was quite eye-opening for a scene, because obviously she was going around trying to find her father, and she obviously finds him dead in the water, and she has to cut off his hand, which obviously is like it was
pretty powerful.
Pretty powerful scene in my opinion.
This film was actually nominated for Best Picture. Nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture in 2010.
That's really good for an independent film, actually.
So with Winter's Bone having a budget of around $2 million, how do you think they've worked around that money to make Winter's Bone the movie now?
Really well, I think. Like, obviously they didn't spend that much money on the actors because Jennifer Lawrence at the time wasn't that big a star.
Yeah.
But like it's really good quality as well. Like, I don't know what cameras they use, but it looked amazing. Like, obviously that they used a very talented cinematographer.
Very
minimalist soundtrack.
The cinematographer is called Michael McDonough. Interesting fact.
Great. Anyway, but
I also want to give a point on kind of the budget, because it was actually filmed digitally, which is like that
expensive.
That can be expensive.
Yeah,
but I think that was pretty brave it was pretty cheaper than film at that time. But I think kind of generally, like, digitally is more expensive.
If you think about it, realistically, there's not a lot of apart from the cameras, not a lot of high quality stuff like in their film. Like the sets are minimal. There's little to no music. I think that's that's why the story shines. Like it's so like prevalent there. Nothing else distracts you. You're focused on the story.
Clever that they use digital, because I think it gives the film kind of an overall more grainy feel. So I think that using digital was a really like good choice from the director.
And going on to mise en scene, how do you think Winter's-Bone has adapted to that?
Well, I don't think it was as prevalent in the film. Like, obviously, they had to create this sort of look of an old hillbilly community, very cast out from society. But I feel like that it wasn't their main priority when making the films. I feel like they were more focused on the cinematography and the character and the story itself. But then there were like what's called nuances in the set pieces. Had like, you know, broken and rusting pans and pots and like a pretty much like sort of disintegrating house. Like I felt like that was all. There's little details really effective.
I mean, to expand on that, like I do think they obviously looked into the actors to make the spectator feel that you're in, like, I think it was Ohio or Minnesota or something like that.
It was
like
yeah.
So, but the scene at the start when she
West Virginia, sorry,
West Virginia.
It was in Missouri.
Missouri.
It was in
yeah, but like
the
actual place called West Virginia.
Okay, yeah. So
no, it was in
the scene where she got the box of the tin out of the fridge and said, I think she said something like, "It's better than nothing."
That's what we have. Or that'll do.
That's all we heard. That would do. Sort of gives the feel that like they're sort of poor and unstable, but like, you know, they're not obviously rich and they don't have a big house. Obviously they're sleeping on sofas. They don't have bedrooms, and with like just the things the kids do in the first scene. So just, I don't know, skateboarding, have random kittens, pick up dogs off the road. You know, what the cars they used in it. Like
very old sort of rusting cars.
Yeah, exactly. And showing like sort of how a lot of them go to like bull races or I don't know, bull.
Oh, do you mean those sort of like auctions?
Contests.
Auctions, yeah.
Auctions, like the auction for farm animals that are like sick.
Yeah.
So that sort of gives the impression that like you don't really see that many other places in the countryside, or, you know,
I mean,
stuff like that. So
it really comes across as a place you just don't want to be at. Like,
exactly.
Obviously, if you live in a place like that, that's like something.
It's home quite, to you.
Yeah, it's quite personal. But like to anyone else, it just seems the most like poverty-stricken sort of.
Yeah, it kind of seems more unwelcoming. It just seems very unwelcoming to just anyone.
Yeah.
Especially in that first shot of the I think we talked about it earlier, just how like all these like dead trees and like like moldy caravans. It's almost like very what's it called? I say unappetizing.
It's kind of rustic and
I mean, it's probably got to do with like, if you are born there and you're born into like the community have everyone's backs, and a community know everything that goes on. So when if you like moved there or something, you would feel unwelcome because you're not part of the community yet, and they all let around rumors and stuff like that.
Like I think it was very much implied that they don't like police.
Oh,
and they like
and
it's just like it's not very it's very protective. They're very protective of themselves, very defensive.
Exactly, especially when Ray, Jennifer Lawrence, came into the police station, and she came into the police station and she gave back, I think it's the dad's arms, but
it was the arms,
the arms, but the police officer was like, I wasn't backing down because of him, I was backing down because you were there or whatever. And she was like, he was like, don't tell anyone. He's like, I would definitely not tell you anything. So it sort of seems like they see the police as a definite enemy, because obviously about like bounty hunters, and because around there they were doing like cooking meth and
anything
stuff
that
like that.
limits
They're
them
probably
of their
trying to-
freedom they don't like.
Exactly, the
Yes.
only thing that limits them, and then obviously it's like a big enemy to them.
They're living their version of the American dream of freedom,
Freedom, yeah.
family, but like at what sort of cost?
Exactly.
Like, for example, like, yes, they have freedom, but Reese's dad died trying to cook, meth to just make money. Like, it's it's true. Like, this is probably happening now. What was it? Where Minnesota? What was it? Yeah.
Missouri. Yeah.
Missouri. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I'll probably. What else can we talk about?
What do you guys think of the use of sound, like all the soundtrack they used? Like, do you think
I
it was
actually
for the story?
Fun point. I really like how they used just the natural surroundings of like what did he say? Was it like a stage sound or something where like where you just all you hear is basically grass crunching, the wind going past,
very diegetic,
opening.
heavy sound.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought kind of the lack of soundtrack really kind of made you feel like you were there, or kind of like
it definitely reminded. Oh, sorry, you go. Sorry.
Yeah, it kind of like makes it more atmospheric, really. Just like
it more relates to like real life, in my opinion.
It reminds me. I don't know if you guys have seen No Country for Old Men. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
No, so in that film, there's no soundtrack at all.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty similar sort of environment, like sort of very cowboy types.
Yeah.
And again, having no soundtrack like that was really good. I really liked how they used it. And it's the same here. Personally, I think it worked. I think if Winter's Bone had no soundtrack, it wouldn't be as effective. But I'm glad it had a bit of sound.
I think it would have worked better if it had no soundtrack. Because
No.
I think it would have kind of immersed you more in the world of kind of, because it's not meant to be glamorized. The whole point of the film is to show this kind of unglamorized, kind of rough, broken down version of America. So I think adding any sort of kind of artificial sound, if that makes sense, or like kind of, because even like with the lighting or like just how it was filmed, it's all very gritty throughout.
Yeah, I mean the lighting was mainly like candles and lamps that are like there, not like artificial. It was artificial lighting, to be honest. And
I mean, I think they should have used more of the soundtrack or like the song types they used at the start. In the other sequence when it's just the woman's voice and no sound.
I mean that's something I think they should more often. Yeah,
I feel like that was like weirdly haunting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was pretty effective, I guess. But
and it sort of gave us an idea of, because they played it at the start of the first scene. It sort of gave us an idea of where they were, because she had a certain accent and you could tell they're sort of down south, or they're like in the countryside, because it was like more over to like country kind of music. So it sort of set the scene with the music, in my opinion.
It definitely made a more melancholic atmosphere. Melancholic? Melancholic atmosphere.
Yeah, it really did set the mood.
I mean, it's very distinct.
Yeah.
It compared to Inception, a film came out the same year.
Yeah.
Those films won't be like any more different in terms of their presentation, and that's why.
I mean, obviously the budget has a massive part with that, because there's just like independent versus Hollywood is going to be a big difference. But I still think this film was helped by, it was based off a novel in 2006, also called Winter's Bone. So I was thinking that probably helps it, because it's got more of like a storytelling aspect to it. So you can kind of I don't know really how to say it.
It wasn't completely independent.
Yeah, it's more down to earth, and I think it's good that it had some sort of source material to base off.
Well, I mean, that's what most independent film are. They're like more. Real.
I'm looking at it now.
Low budget.
It obviously, like, I don't know if I saw the credit at the start. It says Winter's Bone Productions. I don't know what I'm looking at now. They have one credit, and that's Winter's Bone. So I think they obviously had a bit more backing from other people to create their own company. So they had a bit more sort of like creative control over that film.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's why their production is so high budget.
Yeah.
For a film that was 2 million.
So going into like the directors, directing through the movie, have you heard of Debra Granik?
No.
Have you not heard of her movies? No.
Actually,
first film I saw on her.
Actually, tell you what, I'll look up now.
I'm on her right now. She's made a few movies.
Leave No Trace.
Leave No Trace. I'm not sure what that's about.
Down to the Bone. Another Bone film.
And she's done predominantly independent films, I see. She hasn't actually
films, yeah.
She hasn't branched into kind of the blockbuster kind of Hollywood market, which is quite interesting actually.
And what do you think of the acting with the people? Did they really
kids did so well.
Yeah, do you think they really like drew you in from their acting, and to think that they're obviously in a hillbilly country, and
I feel like some of those people weren't actually actors. I feel like they actually pulled them or had like background.
Having real people from the area makes it just seem a lot more real to the spectator, in my opinion. Like, obviously having an actor's really good, and if they can do it, obviously they make it look exactly the same. But with the production wise, if you have someone who's from the area who knows around what to do and stuff, they can always input with the director to make it seem a lot more real to real life, almost seeming like a documentary kind of stuff.
And I think kind of even the actors that weren't even from the area did a really good job. Like whoever it was that played her friend, who's like the mother. Yeah. I think she was really good throughout, because she kind of like represented the life that Ree could have had, or kind of, I guess, kind of the more motherly nature of her, because obviously she's got to look after her siblings, but then her friend is looking after her actual son. So it's kind of, they're both taking on like motherly roles at a young age, and it kind of shows like the responsibility they've got to take up. And
very good dynamic between the two. Like, it's a weird sort of reality for.
But I think the chemistry between the two actors is really, really good as well.
What would you say about the plot? What was your opinions on how the plot has run through?
I mean, initially, I liked how there's not really a big reveal at the end. Like, we're pretty much told that her dad was dead from like halfway through, and that's what happened. He was dead. But the more I think about it now, it kind of makes it a bit more forgettable, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I feel like this.
I guess the film kind of leaves you constantly guessing, because you kind of see these people as like not really trustworthy, but then you're basically introduced to them, and they're saying all these things about her dad or whatever, and then eventually like you realize what they're saying is true. But I think what the film kind of attempts to do is make you kind of question whether they're like leading her off the right track, or if they're actually trying to help her in the end. Really,
I'm really conflicted about the ending, honestly. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm sort of like, maybe they should have kept us guessing a little bit more, and maybe like had them make. I think that they had some opportunities to make the characters more untrustworthy and seem more distant from me. I think they just didn't do that. I feel like.
If those two people that live near Ree take the kids away, I feel like it would add a bit more drama into it, because obviously she would be trying to fight them back, and obviously trying to get her siblings back. But yeah,
it's weird. Towards the end, I never really felt any sort of threat. I feel like it's just at this point it's gonna be like back to normal at the end.
Oh, it's back to normal.
Yeah,
they kind of like set it up at the start of the film.
Yeah, I feel like the film could have benefited from a more kind of negative ending, just to really like go through the message of kind of, I guess, like mainly trust. Really, it's more really about trust than anything else. I think it's like the main theme of the film.
Again, I'm going to ask you guys for like your opinions on this, but technically the film ends how the film starts. They're in the same place. Nothing else has changed. Was that good in terms of like, did any development actually happen? Was it like sort of pointless in the end, or was it just quite effective in sort of portraying a sort of message? Like,
well, in my opinion, it just felt a bit like I don't know, you could say it feels like a bit of like a hill. Like you start and you go all the way up, and then it gets to the point where they find out that they're at the top of the hill is like where she finds out her dad, and it just goes back down to the bottom, and then that's when it's just back to normal. It's like they've just gone in a loop, in a circle.
And I guess that also kind of
telling
plays
the
into
narrative.
like narrative structures as well, because obviously it's a very kind of like circular narrative as well, and it kind of So I didn't like it personally. I think there should have been more development and kind of a big or like some sort of consequence in the end, because that's another thing. She never like no one really gets what they're like. No one really pays what they've done by the end.
Also,
like even the people that beat
I
her
feel
up,
like on that point actually, on that point, the people who beat her up initially, they came back to help her. Obviously I've never had this experience in my life. But I feel like when they beat her up, it sort of came across as they're quite sort of like unforgiving. Again, like I said earlier, like defensive. So why would they come back to help her?
Exactly.
Like, I
think it's got to do with redemption, really. I think they kind of, because it's like they do evil like by beating her up, but I think kind of it's just maybe like realizing what they've done and just kind of paying that back.
Also describing like they didn't really describe why that one person was so important, or you couldn't see him, otherwise you would get beaten up just like her though. I feel like they should have just explained it a little bit more, because I was a bit like, he's just an old man who goes to bull auctions and he just walks back from home.
But I like how
she get beaten up for it.
I like how insignificant they portrayed the characters. In the grand scheme of things, they do not matter to the rest of the country, and that's what I like. I feel like that's why. And also, I think, did you say that they beat her up because she followed that guy into the bull thing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's because she went to the house beforehand. It was the second time.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's very good how sort of little the characters really mattered.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about how the people that beat her up came to help her, you could say why Teardrop came and helped her. Like, obviously, he found out that he was dead, but like
Teardrop didn't nearly beat her to death.
Yeah, exactly. But like, why would he just want to help as soon as he finds out that he's dead? Like, maybe he wanted something or some of his wealth. I don't know.
It's a good point to think about, actually. But anyway, I feel like we've just for 20 minutes now. So I guess let's finish off with, out of 10, how would you rate it?
I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
6?
Unfortunately, yeah, it's not my. It wasn't like, my style film.
Oh, okay. Daniel, what about you?
Probably a 6 or 7 actually. I mean, obviously I praise it for being an independent film, but I think there's too many things that just don't work together, and kind of the ending just fell a bit flat for me.
I would say a 7 for me. It's because I just loved how the cinematography in the film. I thought, and the sound, and that it's a bit shallow to say, but I think that kind of swayed me over from the sort of very quite like almost messy plot at times, I think.
That's going to be the end of the podcast, Pods and Shaw, with Owen Smith and Daniel Wallace. Thanks you guys for joining.
It's been great. It's been
good. And really good opinions on the movie and reviews. And I'd love to get you on here again sometime.
This isn't your podcast. This is our podcast.
Hold on. Someone's clean this.
How dare you?
Mate, I already put a trademark on it. You ain't going.
Okay, bye.
Pods and Shaw.
See ya. Bye.